Kim Jong Un, the man who made the world fear him. There is a country on this earth where one man is worshipped as a god, where children are taught from birth that he is perfect, where soldiers cry not out of sadness, but out of a desperate desire to please him, where citizens go to prison not for what they do, but for what they think. That country is North Korea, and the man at the center of it all, the man who inherited a god's throne, is Kim Jong Un. But before we get to him, we have to understand the world he was born into. Because Kim Jong Un did not become what he is by accident. He was engineered, built from the ground up by a dynasty that had been constructing power for over 70 years. And to understand Kim Jong Un, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. The grandfather, Kim Il-sung. In the early 1900s, Korea was a colony of Japan. The Japanese had invaded, occupied, and tried to erase Korean identity entirely. They forced Koreans to take Japanese names. They banned the Korean language in schools. They sent Korean men to labor camps and Korean women to serve Japanese soldiers. It was a brutal, humiliating occupation. And out of that humiliation rose a young man named Kim Sung-ju. He was born in 1912 near Pyongyang. His family were Christians, middle class, educated. But as Kim grew up watching Japanese soldiers patrol his streets, something hardened inside him. By his teens, he had joined the anti-Japanese resistance. He changed his name to Kim Il-sung, which roughly translates to Kim, the son of the nation. He led guerrilla fighters against Japanese forces in Manchuria. He became a symbol, young, fearless, the face of Korean resistance. The Japanese put a price on his head. When World War II ended in 1945 and Japan was defeated, Korea was finally liberated. But then came a new problem. The Americans came from the south, the Soviets came from the north, and Korea, still barely breathing, was divided in two along the 38th parallel. The Soviets needed someone to run the north. They chose Kim Il-sung. He was young, he was a communist, he was a war hero. He was exactly what Moscow wanted. In 1948, Kim Il-sung became the founding leader of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, what the world would come to know as North Korea. And from that moment, the Kim dynasty began. Kim Il-sung was not just a political leader. He wanted to be something more. He wanted to be a god. He created a system of worship around himself that the world had never quite seen before. He was called the Great Leader. His face went on every wall, every building, every classroom. Children sang songs about him. His birthday was a national holiday. His words were treated as sacred scripture. It wasn't just propaganda. It was a total replacement of reality. North Koreans were taught that Kim Il-sung had personally driven the Japanese out of Korea, that he controlled the weather, that he had magical powers, that loyalty to him was loyalty to Korea itself. Anyone who questioned this disappeared. Kim Il-sung built a police state with one of the most terrifying surveillance systems in human history. Neighbors reported on neighbors. Children reported on parents. If you were overheard saying something disloyal, you and your entire family could be sent to a prison camp. These camps were places of unimaginable suffering, forced labor, starvation, torture, execution, and they still exist today. But inside all of this, Kim Il-sung was also building a legacy, a dynasty. He had a son, and that son's name was Kim Jong-il. The father, Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il was born in 1941 or possibly 1942. Even the year of his birth was disputed, which tells you something about how much of his life was constructed rather than lived. Growing up as the son of Kim Il-sung was like being the son of a living god. Every door was open. Every desire was fulfilled. Every person around you treated you like royalty because you were royalty. But Kim Jong-il was not simply coasting on his father's glory. He was watching, learning, and waiting. From a young age, he was obsessed with film. He amassed one of the world's largest private movie collections, tens of thousands of films, including James Bond movies, cowboy films, Godzilla. He was known to watch multiple movies every night. But more than watching, he understood the power of narrative. He understood that cinema was the most powerful propaganda tool ever invented. He took control of North Korea's film industry. He produced epics glorifying his father, glorifying the Korean people, glorifying the struggle against America and Japan. He was also calculating politically. Through the 1970s, he began accumulating power within the Korean Workers' Party. He outmaneuvered rivals. He removed enemies. He had people who threatened him quietly dealt with. By 1980, at the Sixth Party Congress, Kim Jong Il was publicly named as Kim Il-sung's successor. And in 1994, Kim Il-sung died of a heart attack. Kim Jong-il became the supreme leader of North Korea. Kim Jong-il was bizarre. He wore platform shoes to appear taller. He styled his hair into a massive pompadour. He wore jumpsuits everywhere. He was deeply reclusive, almost never giving public speeches. But behind the eccentricity was a ruthless mind. In the 1990s, North Korea was hit by a famine so catastrophic it killed between 600,000 and 1 million people, perhaps more. The country's agricultural system had collapsed. Kim Jong-il's response: he kept spending on the military. He kept building weapons. He prioritized regime survival over his people's lives. Hundreds of thousands of North Koreans starved to death. And Kim Jong-il remained in his palaces, reportedly ordering luxury food from France and Japan, throwing lavish parties for his inner circle. But there was something else Kim Jong-il was building during those terrible years. He was building the bomb. In 2006, North Korea conducted its first nuclear weapons test. The world was shocked. A country this small, this isolated, this poor had managed to join the nuclear club. Kim Jong-il had made North Korea impossible to ignore. And then he turned his attention to a problem every dictator must eventually face. Who comes after me? He had 3 sons. The eldest was Kim Jong-nam, intelligent, open-minded, almost Western in his outlook. The second was Kim Jong-kal, who had no interest in politics. His great passion was Eric Clapton. And then there was the youngest son, the one who had been hiding in the shadows, the one nobody knew much about, Kim Jong-un, the boy from nowhere. Kim Jong-un was born sometime around 1982 to 1984. The exact date is unclear, and in North Korea, that ambiguity is almost certainly intentional. His mother was Ko Young-hui, a dancer, an entertainer, a woman who had caught Kim Jong-il's eye. She was beautiful, charming, devoted, and she was fiercely ambitious for her sons. Kim Jong-un grew up in a world of extraordinary privilege. He had everything a child could want: toys, games, sports equipment, servants, chefs, private cinema screenings. He was raised inside a bubble of luxury so complete that the reality of the country outside barely existed for him. But he also grew up in a world of secrets. Kim Jong-un's existence was not publicly acknowledged by the North Korean government for years. He was a ghost, real to those inside the inner circle, invisible to everyone else. And then something unexpected happened. He was sent to Switzerland, the boy in Switzerland. In the late 1990s, Kim Jong-un was enrolled at the International School of Bern in Switzerland. He used a fake name. He was introduced as the son of a North Korean embassy employee, and for a few years, he lived something close to a normal life. He attended classes with children from around the world. He played basketball obsessively. He had a poster of Michael Jordan on his wall. He loved Jackie Chan movies. He played video games. Former classmates remember a boy who was quiet, reserved, sometimes awkward, but passionate about sports. He would shoot hoops for hours. He was competitive, determined, a little intense. His teachers described a student who was not particularly distinguished academically, but who was eager, attentive, and deeply curious about the world around him. Here is what makes this period so remarkable. This boy, who was living in democratic Europe, attending a multicultural school, watching American movies, listening to Western music, would one day return to North Korea and become the most isolated dictator on earth. He saw freedom, he breathed it, he tasted it, and then he gave it up, or perhaps he never had a choice. Around 2000, Kim Jong-un returned to North Korea. He enrolled at Kim Il-sung Military University in Pyongyang, the most prestigious military academy in the country. He was being prepared for what, even he may not have fully understood yet. Meanwhile, Kim Jong-il's health was deteriorating. In August 2008, he suffered a severe stroke. He was hospitalized in secret. For weeks, the North Korean government pretended nothing had happened. But inside the inner circle, everyone knew. The succession question could no longer wait. Kim Jong Un had disgraced himself in 2001, caught trying to enter Japan on a fake passport, reportedly to visit Tokyo Disneyland. Kim Jong-il never fully forgave him. Kim Jong-il was never seriously considered, which left Kim Jong-un. In 2009, he was given his first official position. In state media, he was referred to as the brilliant comrade. In 2010, Kim Jong-un was given the rank of 4-star general, despite having no military experience whatsoever. The message was clear. This was the next Kim. On December 17, 2011, Kim Jong-il died of a heart attack on his private train. State television broke the news with a broadcaster weeping so dramatically it became the image North Korea broadcast to the world. And Kim Jong-un, barely 30 years old, became the supreme leader of North Korea. The world waited. Some predicted he would be a figurehead, controlled by older generals. Some predicted he would reform North Korea, open it up, modernize it. Some predicted the dynasty would simply collapse. None of them were right. The rise, blood, and power. Kim Jong-un's first move surprised everyone. He smiled. He appeared at public events. He gave speeches, something his father almost never did. He walked with his wife Ri Sol-ju in public. He visited amusement parks. He was photographed laughing. He was photographed hugging children. He seemed warm, modern, even likable. The world was cautiously hopeful. They would not stay hopeful for long. The purge. Behind the smiles. Kim Jong-un was doing something his father and grandfather had always done when they first took power. He was eliminating threats. In the early years of his rule, Kim oversaw the systematic removal of senior officials who had served his father, generals, party bosses, military commanders who might have their own power bases, their own networks, their own ideas about how North Korea should be run. One by one, they were demoted, arrested, disappeared. The executions were sometimes carried out in ways designed to send a message. Anti-aircraft guns, mortars, methods meant to leave nothing behind. But all of this was a warm-up. The moment that shocked even those who expected brutality came in December 2013. Kim Jong-un had his own uncle arrested. Jang Song-theek was not just any uncle. He was one of the most powerful men in North Korea. He had been Kim Jong-il's right-hand man for decades. He had served as a kind of regent in the early months of Kim Jong-un's rule, helping the young leader navigate the political landscape. Many believed Jang was the real power behind the throne. They were wrong. Kim Jong-un had Jang dragged out of a public meeting on camera in front of senior party members and arrested. Days later, Jang Song-theek was executed. State media accused him of treason, of corruption, of trying to seize power, of being a traitor for all ages. And then members of Jang's family, his nephews, people connected to him by blood alone, were also executed. Kim Jong-un had just sent the clearest possible message, not just to North Korea's elite, but to the world. I am not a puppet. I am not a figurehead. I am not someone you manage. I am the Kim. The assassination. Then came February 2017. Kim Jong-nam, Kim Jong-un's eldest half-brother, was at Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia. He was living abroad in Macau under Chinese protection. He had occasionally spoken to journalists. He had said things that, even mildly, suggested North Korea's political system was imperfect. In the airport, 2 women approached him. They smeared something on his face. Within 20 minutes, Kim Jong-nam was dead. The substance was VX, one of the most lethal chemical weapons ever synthesized. A single drop on the skin can kill within minutes. South Korean and American intelligence concluded that the assassination had been ordered by Kim Jong-un, his own brother, killed with a chemical weapon in a public airport in a foreign country. The message was ancient and simple. There is no place on earth you can hide from me. The bomb, while the purges were happening, while the executions were being carried out, Kim Jong-un was building something that would change everything. His grandfather had dreamed of it. His father had chased it. Kim Jong Un was determined to finish it. The bomb, not just one bomb, not just an experimental device tested underground to prove a point, a real nuclear arsenal, missiles that could reach South Korea, Japan, Guam, Alaska, the continental United States, a weapon that would make North Korea permanently, existentially untouchable. Kim Jong Un believed, and still believes, that nuclear weapons are the only guarantee of his survival. He had watched what happened to Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, who gave up his nuclear program and was later overthrown and killed. He had watched what happened to Saddam Hussein of Iraq, who had no nuclear weapons and was invaded and executed. The lesson he drew was stark. Nuclear weapons equal survival. No nuclear weapons equal death. Under Kim Jong Un, North Korea conducted more nuclear weapons tests than under his father and grandfather combined. In 2016 alone, North Korea conducted 2 nuclear tests. In September 2017, North Korea tested what it claimed was a hydrogen bomb, a thermonuclear weapon far more powerful than the atomic bombs dropped on Japan in World War II. The underground explosion was so large it triggered earthquakes that were felt in China. The world was stunned. And then came the missiles. In July 2017, North Korea tested an intercontinental ballistic missile that flew for nearly an hour and reached an altitude of over 2,000 kilometers before splashing down in the sea. Analysts calculated its potential range. It could reach Alaska. Weeks later, another test. This one, analysts said, could potentially reach the continental United States. For the first time in its history, North Korea had a weapon that could theoretically hit New York, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., the world, and especially America, was genuinely scared. The fire and fury. In 2017, Donald Trump sat in the White House. Trump had never dealt with anything quite like Kim Jong Un. Kim was different, unpredictable, dangerous in ways that couldn't be managed with a tweet. When North Korea tested its missiles, Trump went to the United Nations and said that if Kim Jong Un threatened America, North Korea would face fire and fury like the world has never seen. Kim Jong Un fired back, calling Trump a mentally deranged dotard. The two men traded insults across the Pacific. The world held its breath. And then something extraordinary happened. They decided to meet. The Singapore Summit. On June 12, 2018, Kim Jong Un stepped off a plane in Singapore. He shook hands with Donald Trump. It was the first time in history that a sitting American president had met with a leader of North Korea. The images were surreal. Trump and Kim smiling, walking together, sitting across a table, trading pleasantries through interpreters. Kim Jong Un had done something extraordinary. He had gone from being called a madman, a threat to civilization, to sitting down with the leader of the most powerful nation on earth, as an equal. At the subsequent summits in Hanoi in 2019, negotiations broke down. The Americans wanted North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons. Kim wanted sanctions lifted first. Neither side blinked, but the point had already been made. Kim Jong Un had made himself undeniable. Man behind the curtain. What is Kim Jong Un actually like as a person? The world has been trying to answer this question for over a decade. Here is what we know. He is a basketball obsessive. Dennis Rodman, the eccentric American basketball star, visited North Korea multiple times and struck up a genuine friendship with Kim. He described a man who loved the game, who could watch hours of NBA footage, who talked about players and stats with real passion. He is a heavy smoker. In photos and videos, he is almost always seen with a cigarette. His health has been a constant source of speculation. He is overweight, significantly so. Analysts who study his appearances note that his weight has fluctuated, sometimes dramatically. There are theories about health problems, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease. His father and grandfather both died of cardiac events. He loves food, luxury food, French wine, Japanese sushi, imported cheeses. He reportedly has personal chefs trained in international cuisine. He reportedly owns 17 luxury palaces around North Korea, a fleet of over 100 high-end European cars, a private yacht, a private jet. a private island that visitors have described as paradise. He disappeared for 3 weeks in April 2020. The world speculated he was dead, dying, or incapacitated. He reappeared at the opening of a fertilizer plant, looking somewhat thinner, walking with what some analysts thought was a slight limp. No official explanation was ever given. His wife, Rai Sol-ju, is stylish, educated, and elegant in public appearances. She was photographed carrying a designer handbag worth more than most North Koreans earn in a year. His sister, Kim Yo-jong, has become one of the most powerful people in North Korea. She writes the fire-breathing statements that North Korea releases to the world. She is believed to be among the top 2 or 3 people in the country's hierarchy. Some analysts believe that if Kim Jong Un died suddenly, she could be the next supreme leader. His daughter, believed to be named Kim Jong-un, began appearing in public in 2022 at weapons tests, military parades, standing beside her father. South Korean intelligence believes Kim may be preparing her for a future leadership role. She is approximately 13 years old. The dynasty continues. The new axis, Russia, war, and the future. In February 2022, Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. The Western world united against Russia. Sanctions were imposed. Weapons were sent to Ukraine. Russia found itself increasingly isolated, but Putin had a solution. Kim Jong Un. What followed was one of the most significant geopolitical partnerships of the modern era. North Korea, desperate for cash, food, and technology, had something Russia urgently needed: weapons, ammunition, millions of artillery shells, short-range ballistic missiles, the products of decades of North Korean arms manufacturing. Russia wanted all of it. The deal was made. By 2023, North Korea was supplying Russia with massive quantities of ammunition for use in Ukraine. Analysts estimated that North Korea provided the equivalent of an entire year's worth of Russia's own artillery shell production. In September 2023, Kim Jong Un traveled to Russia for a historic summit with Putin at Russia's space launch facility. They talked about rockets, about technology, about partnership. In June 2024, Putin traveled to Pyongyang, his first visit in 24 years. The two men signed a comprehensive strategic partnership, pledging mutual assistance if either country was attacked. And then, the most dramatic step yet. In October 2024, North Korean soldiers arrived in Russia, 11,000 troops deployed to the Kursk region, elite special forces, trained fighters, sent to support Russian combat operations against Ukraine. By early 2025, South Korean intelligence put the total at 15,000 and rising. North Korea was now actively, physically fighting in a war in Europe, and in exchange for all of this, Russia was giving North Korea things money cannot normally buy: modern air defense systems, electronic jamming technology, and according to South Korean intelligence reports, potentially the components for a nuclear-powered submarine, including the reactor itself. The nuclear arsenal today. As of 2025 and into 2026, North Korea's nuclear program continues to advance at a pace that alarms even veteran analysts. Estimates of North Korea's nuclear stockpile range from 45 to well over 100 weapons. North Korea has tested intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of reaching the continental United States. In January 2025, North Korea tested a hypersonic intermediate-range missile. In March 2025, North Korea launched multiple ballistic missiles into the Yellow Sea. The country's constitution now mandates automatic nuclear strikes in response to certain types of attacks. Kim Jong Un has stated explicitly that North Korea will never give up its nuclear weapons. And with Russia now openly supporting North Korea's nuclear aspirations, the international pressure that once might have worked has largely collapsed. Life inside the kingdom. While Kim Jong Un builds bombs and signs treaties with Russia, what is life like for the people of North Korea? The answer is difficult to hear. North Korea is one of the poorest countries on Earth. Estimates suggest 25 to 30% of the country's entire economy goes toward the military and weapons programs. The rest of the population survives, sometimes barely. The prison camp system continues to operate. Former prisoners who have escaped describe conditions of unimaginable cruelty, forced labor, starvation, torture, execution, sometimes public, as a warning to others. Families are sent to these camps together. Children born in the camps grow up there. Some die there. The internet does not exist for ordinary North Koreans. Foreign radio broadcasts are illegal. Watching South Korean television dramas, smuggled in on USB drives, can carry the death penalty. And yet, South Korean dramas are still being watched. USB drives still move. Information still leaks in. Analysts who study North Korea say this slow infiltration of outside information may be the greatest long-term threat to the dynasty. Not missiles, not sanctions. The fact that North Koreans are starting to see what the world outside looks like and wondering why they cannot have it. How powerful is he, and why does the world fear him? Let us end where we began. Kim Jong Un is, by most measures, one of the most powerful dictators alive. He controls a nuclear arsenal. He has missiles that can reach America. He has troops currently deployed in a war in Europe. He has a strategic partnership with Russia, one of the world's two largest nuclear powers. He has survived international sanctions that would have collapsed most governments. He has survived assassination attempts, internal coups, international isolation. He has survived a global pandemic that sealed North Korea's borders even more tightly. He has defied every president who tried to deal with him, from Obama to Trump to Biden. Here is why the world fears him. First, the nuclear weapons. North Korea's arsenal is real. The missiles are real. And Kim Jong Un has made it constitutionally clear that he will use them if he believes his regime faces destruction. No country can simply attack North Korea the way America attacked Iraq. The consequences could be catastrophic. Second, unpredictability. Kim Jong Un does not behave by conventional rules. He executed his uncle. He assassinated his brother with a chemical weapon. He sent troops to fight in Europe. He is willing to escalate in ways that other leaders are not. Third, the Russia alliance. Kim Jong Un is no longer alone. He has a powerful partner who can provide technology, block United Nations action, and legitimize his weapons program. The international isolation that once constrained North Korea has been partially broken. Fourth, succession. Kim Jong Un appears to be grooming his young daughter as a possible successor. The dynasty is preparing for a fourth generation. The Kim family, which has ruled North Korea since 1948, appears to have no intention of stopping, and behind all of it, a question that no one has fully answered. What does Kim Jong Un want? Not nuclear war. Most analysts believe he understands that would mean his own destruction. Not reunification with South Korea. He officially declared South Korea an enemy state in 2024, not a brother to be reunited with. What he wants, what every Kim has always wanted, is survival. The survival of his regime, his family, his dynasty. Nuclear weapons are not a threat. They are insurance. They are the guarantee that what happened to Gaddafi, to Saddam, to all the leaders who trusted foreign powers and paid with their lives, will not happen to him. Epilogue: the boy who became the world's most dangerous man. Once, there was a boy in Switzerland. He played basketball in a gymnasium in Bern. He watched Michael Jordan highlights. He ate lunch in a school cafeteria with children from around the world. He saw freedom. He went home, and he became Kim Jong Un, the third Kim, the inheritor of a throne built on fear and myth and nuclear fire. He was supposed to be a placeholder, a puppet, someone the old generals could manage while they ran things from behind. Instead, he executed the generals. He was supposed to open North Korea, reform it, let the world in. Instead, he sealed it tighter. He was supposed to be a transitional figure, someone who would hold things together for a few years before the dynasty crumbled. Instead, more than 14 years after his father's death, Kim Jong Un is more powerful than ever. His bombs are bigger. His missiles fly farther. His alliance with Russia gives him cover and technology that his grandfather and father never had. His daughter stands beside him at weapons tests, being groomed for the throne. The Kim Dynasty, which began with a guerrilla fighter in the mountains of Manchuria, has not only survived, it has evolved into something the world has never quite seen before. A nuclear-armed hereditary dictatorship with a standing army, a chemical weapons stockpile, a partnership with Russia, and a supreme leader who is, by all available evidence, completely, absolutely, terrifyingly in control. This is Kim Jong Un, the man who made the world fear him, and as of today, the world still does. Thank you for watching Shadow Files. If this story moved you, subscribe for more new stories every week.